welcome to this week's edition of the American Scottish Foundation, Scots in Us. We turn the spotlight onto the Edinburgh Festival, the return this year of the Edinburgh Festival in person for the first time in 2 years. And we're very fortunate that we're going to be joined by some leading voices within our Scottish arts community. The first in what will be a series of interviews with these leading voices, giving us insights and behind the curtain views of what is going on. We begin by speaking with Anthony Orderson. He's the founder and director of the Pleasance Theatre Trust, and he will be telling us of all that is going on with the Pleasance this year. Over 600 productions daily, over 27 venues. We're then joined by Amina Shah, who is the National Librarian of Scotland and CEO of the National Library of Scotland. She will be telling us about the Treasures Gallery that's recently opened, and also a wonderful new exhibit that is going to open in time for the festival. And then we get an inside look into what it is to be performing and putting on a production at the Fringe from Noisemaker, the award-winning team of Claire McKenzie and Scott Gilmour. They don't have a production this year on at the Fringe, but they've had award-winning productions over the years from Atlantic to Forest Boy, and explain to us how it is such a great stepping stone, but also with challenges. And they give us their picks. And so let's begin by joining in conversation with Anthony Orderson. And I'm delighted to now welcome back Anthony Orderson, who is the Pleasance Theatre Trust Director and former Vice Chair for over 30 years of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And so good morning to you, Anthony.
Good morning, and very lovely to be here. You've slightly exaggerated my tenure to the Fringe Society. I was only their Vice Chairman for about 8 years.
But you were involved.
I've been around the Fringe for at least 3 decades, but yeah, they wouldn't have me for that long.
Okay, but they've had you for, we're very
They had me for a while, yes,
yes.
For a little while, yeah.
You really know and live and understand the Fringe and all that goes on in August up in Edinburgh. You're spending half your year also down in London with the theatre down there, preparing to come up to Edinburgh for the Fringe. Yeah. And it's been, as we've spoken over the last 2 years, the most challenging of times. But can you tell me where we are this year? How is it looking?
I don't know whether I'm coming or going, Camilla. Where are we this year? Well, we're back. I mean, what I mean by that is that we're opening all the venues that we did in 2019. We have a jam-packed program.
How many is that?
So this year, I think we're 27 venues.
Fantastic.
And we're presenting over 270 shows.
Amazing.
And our biggest venue is 1,300 seats. Our smallest venue is 50 seats. And it ranges from very large ballet down to, brand new pieces of new writing from new companies, stand-up comedy, great big children's program, lots of spoken word, and lots of festival. I can't wait.
So when you say festival, what do you mean by that?
Well, we open on the 3rd of August and we close on the 29th. So for 27 days of performance, we will be presenting 280 odd shows every day. We have a cast of probably 2,500 people who are involved in all of those productions across those venues. We have a crew of nearly 500 who run the buildings and run the bars and the catering, and we partner with Edinburgh University who run all the bars. And we hope a very large audience. When we did this last in 2019, we had an audience of just over 600,000 people came through the Pleasance, and our hope is that those people will be back and will be bringing all their friends.
Are you incorporating some of the outdoor elements to the performance space?
We're not. I mean, the outdoor spaces around the Pleasance are very much there for the enjoyment of customers between shows. But no, we're building venues again. We're turning all those little nooks and crannies and rooms and sports centres and lecture theatres back into theatres. In fact, the crew started work this week on starting to build it all.
But that is what the whole Fringe is about. It's about all these going into a building and there being like 5 different performances going on in different areas of this building.
Absolutely. So we have 3 sites, the Pleasance Courtyard, which has 16 venues around it. And that's where we started 38 years ago, when we opened one space. There is actually a theatre there. The original theatre, the Little Theatre, was, this is the 75th anniversary of the festival. And in fact, in 1947, one of the original Fringe productions, a production of Gorky's The Lower Decks, was put on in what is now the Pleasance Theatre by Glasgow Unity Theatre. They came with a piece. They were one of the sort of 8 protesters, the uninvited 8, who the international festival really didn't want, because they didn't want to promote Scottish work in quite the way that the Unity Theatre wanted to do it. And so there has been something always at the Pleasance on that site. In those days, it was called the Little Theatre, but there has been something there really since the very start of the Fringe. Way back when, in 1975. We started calling it the Pleasance in 1947 is when that started. We started calling it the Pleasance in 1985. And the name is now stuck.
The courtyard is such a beautiful location.
It's a wonderful venue. It's like a Belgian beer garden. You feel as if you're in a part of Edinburgh that's been carved out of the very rock of the city. It's the most gorgeous. I've probably spent 4 years of my life in that courtyard over the years, you know, doing theatrical things. One of my favorite places on earth. And what I love about it is that you can sit in the courtyard and complete strangers will come and talk to you about the shows they've just seen and what they've just experienced or who they've just met or the argument about nuclear physics they're probably having with a member of the bar staff, because most of the bar staff are university students and they're all incredibly bright, incredibly clever people, and speak several languages, and you know, it's the most wonderful gathering of human spirit.
And it's right in the center of the city, you know what I mean? It's easy to get to.
When we started, it was very much on the outskirts of the Fringe. We were seen as being really kind of, you know, outlying the centre of the Fringe. But now I think in fact, I think one newspaper called us the epicenter of the cultural universe. So you can make of that what you like. But no, we love being at the heart of the festival. It's such a wonderful event. But we have productions from all over the world, including a dance company that we're trying to bring from Kyiv in Ukraine.
Oh, wonderful.
We're bringing 14 dancers from the Freedom Ballet of Ukraine. They've been going about 20 years. And the idea, if we can get the visas, if we can get them, they've been given permission to leave. There was a problem with the male dancers being able to leave the country, but they've now been given permission. We've now just got to get them visas to get into this country. But they're spread across the, you know, bits of Europe. Some of the dancers are still in Kyiv, but we're determined to bring them, and we're determined to put on their show.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah, it should be great. But we've got people coming from all over the world. I mean, a company coming from India. We've got people coming from New Zealand, from America, from Canada. Someone asked me if in fact there were less international companies because of Brexit. And I think the opposite is actually true. I think we've got more international companies coming this year.
You have a very, what people don't understand is that the Fringe actually, the festival has a very good visa program worked out that is supportive to the short stay for the Fringe, isn't it?
Yeah. The idea is it's permit free. So you don't need a work permit to work at the festival. Yes. If you are a performing company. You still need a visa to enter the country if you come from a country that requires that. But you don't require a work permit for the festival, which I think is
fabulous.
Wonderful. I mean, I think it means that we see and are able to welcome people from every single corner of the globe to come.
Yeah,
and it's still the world's largest showcase for theatre anywhere. I mean, people come from festivals and theatres all over the world to come and find work and to come and meet new writers, new directors, in order to, we hope, to export that work back to their own countries.
Well, the city, I'm going to be over in August, as I just had let you know, and I can't wait to have that wonderful feeling of just being immersed into the Fringe and the whole festival. And it is, you know, layers of festival, because you have the book and the art and all the different other aspects going on. But what are you most excited about putting on at the Pleasance this year? Last year you had some wonderful musical expressions going on. So what would you like to spotlight to us right now?
Well, I think we got some very, very exciting shows. The lot who are behind Mischief Theatre Company, who are behind The Play That Goes Wrong, they're bringing 2 pieces to us. They've got 3 shows running in the West End at the moment. A wonderful musical called Fantastically Great Women Who Changed the World, which is aimed at youngsters, to educate young people about the amazing things that some of these women have done over the years. And that includes sort of Emmeline Pankhurst and all these fabulous characters from history. A wonderful French production called Phil's Monkey, which is, I'm told, a drumming term. And they're 2 sort of high octane drummers on stage who do the most remarkable things with the drum kit. Really great. Ballet Freedom, I mentioned, which is the Ukrainian Freedom Ballet Company. They're bringing their show Boudoir, which is, I would describe it as, if our wardrobes could talk, what would they say? And it's a piece about, you know, it's a piece of dance, but it explores our bedrooms. It's very, very, very exciting, and I think could be really glorious. Cirque Berserk are back with their extraordinary circus show, which this year includes 5 motorbikes in the globe of death, which is pretty extraordinary, I have to say. It's absolutely one of the most terrifying things I've seen in my life, but it is absolutely amazing.
Where are you doing that?
So this is all happening at the International Conference Centre.
That's at the International Conference?
Yeah. It is this year, it's the Young Pleasance 25th anniversary. Our youth theatre company celebrates 25 years, and we're doing an adaptation of Kafka's The Trial. We're doing an Irvine Welsh play, Porno, which is the follow-on to Train Spotting. So that's a premiere. Which could be great. I think it could be really, really fabulous. I'm trying to do all of this from memory. So
this is fantastic. I think that we're going to have you back as you're a little bit closer in.
Yeah.
And maybe spotlight even, maybe we can even see you in the, down at the courtyard.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be lovely. But the point is that I mean, we're actually producing or co-producing 23 different shows ourselves. We've teamed up with eight theatres around the country. And we have this national partnership program, which is really trying to discover new regional voices and trying to help regional theatres bring stuff to the festival. And the festival means an awful lot to regional theatre in this country, because it's where they come to program a great deal of work, and again, to find creative people. So it's really lovely to be working across a number of theatres across the country.
And musically, what, last year that played a big part. Have you any musicals or productions?
Yeah, well, Fantastically Great Women Who Changed the World is a musical. It's very much in the vein of Six, the musical. the same producers, in fact. And there's a number of musicals, none of which I can remember off the top of my head. And I stupidly didn't bring the brochure with me, otherwise I could have flicked to that page. But there is a big music program. And in fact, at the EICC, we're opening a brand new venue, a bit of a cabaret space specifically to try and promote a music program. There's a great flamenco guitarist, 2 flamenco guitarists coming, called Flamenco Fusion, or Duo, I think the band are actually called, and they are simply breathtaking. Absolutely wonderful performance.
So if one wanted to go to an evening show at 6 or something, one could go on to another one.
Yeah.
After that. And
the children's shows start at 10 in the morning and the late night cabarets finish at 3 in the morning. We don't ever sleep. It's a 24-hour operation. And when the doors are closed, there's actually a huge yard staff who come around and clean all the venues, who get rid of all the waste, who clear up all the, the bottles and the pint glasses and the, it doesn't stop. And then the crew are back in at 9, the first show starts at 10, and it rolls all day long.
I think
27 days, it's wonderful.
You are inspiring, and we're so fortunate that you're there doing all that you do and growing and making the whole Fringe and all of that happen. It's the whole of Edinburgh is geared to it, and delivering food and hospitality to all of us who descend.
Yeah.
So it's not just only what you're doing at the theatre, it's the whole experience that you're making.
Absolutely. The whole thing is an experience. And one of the big parts of what we do is training. So a lot of the crew members who come, this is their first jobs for many people. It's volunteers. We're still looking for volunteers. There's a real shortage of people this year. We're still looking for crew members. We're still looking for volunteers. But for some of those young people, this is their very first steps into the arts. And, we run actual formal training programs for them. We run training programs throughout the festival. So you come away at the end of a month, a very much a changed person, very much more exhausted, but very much more educated and enlightened, I hope.
Well, I'm just delighted that we've caught up with you today. And if we can check back in with you in a few weeks, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be delightful. Lovely.
Right? And to seeing you soon too, in person.
Exactly. Well, that would be nice. With too many Zoom calls, we've got to get everybody there in person. I mean, I think this is why festivals are becoming so important again. They're great gathering places. And people, we're gathering folk. We want to be together.
No,
we want to be in rooms. I mean, I thought that we would, that everything would go digital, that we'd move on to this digital world and everything else. But actually, it's amazing how quickly theatre has come back to wanting to be live. You cannot replace the experience of being in a room full of people.
But I also love the small experience, the small, off Broadways, which we have here, experience. I think that's also wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, these are not theatres, but they really do become them.
Yes.
And you put some, amazingly talented storytellers on stage, and they're really breathtaking. Some of the originality. I see something every year that completely changes my life, and it blows me away every time.
Well, that's why you have this energy to keep going.
Absolutely, yeah. No one else would have me.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Very soon.
Lovely to see you. Bye, Camilla. Take care.
Good morning and welcome to this week's Scots in Us. I'm delighted that this week I'm able to catch up with Amina Shah. She is the National Library of Scotland's Chief Executive and the National Librarian of Scotland. And so, Amina, welcome back. I'm so pleased we're taking a few minutes to find out all that's going on.
Lovely to be here, Camilla. Thanks for asking me along. Always happy to speak to our wonderful, supportive American patrons, and happy 4th of July Day for yesterday as well, of course.
Yes, it was very warm here, so it's lovely to see you. So, Amina, I spoke the other week to Dora Petheridge, who took us on a journey through the Treasures Gallery, which is a really exciting new addition to the library. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you hope it will achieve, because it seemed to have a lot of new aspects to it that you were looking to introduce and grow within the library that we might not think about as part of the library.
Yeah, absolutely, Camilla. It's just a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase the collections that are in the library. And actually, a lot of our collections are beneath people's feet. And we have 13 floors of stack underneath the Treasures Gallery in George IV Bridge. And if anyone's ever in Edinburgh and would like a tour of those, let me know. I'd love to show you around. So the Treasures Gallery is just a little space, or it's quite a large space, but it's a sneak peek opportunity to see some of those collections and to get a glimpse of what's beneath the collections in our treasures of the library. And in order to do that appropriately, what we'd started with in the Treasures Gallery when you walk in is really a description about the history of the library, because as you can imagine, we get people from all over the world coming to Edinburgh and entering the library, and we just want to be able to say what we're about, and that it's our role to collect, preserve and share the printed and recorded memory of Scotland. And we do that digitally and physically. So the Treasures is a chance to showcase things from the oldest items that we have to the most up-to-date. And it starts really with an absolutely jaw-dropping manuscript, the Iona Psalter, and it dates from around 1140 to 1180, and it was created by the monks in Iona for an abbess, for a female abbot of the time. And the document is just incredibly beautifully illustrated with illuminated manuscripts, and it's just absolutely divine. And the idea that it's nearly 1,000 years old, the oldest document we have, one of the oldest things we have in our collection.
So, but you are really what Dora was explaining also is you've got wonderful romantic historical moments like Flora MacDonald and Bonnie Prince Charlie, and some manuscripts and notes that you've been able to show. And then people can go into the rest of the library to see more. But it sort of gives them a window into all you're doing.
Exactly.
Which is so fantastic. I had no idea that your work, of course, now it makes sense, also does include what's happening now, the digital world of what we are, and recordings and albums and all this side of things. It's a huge job. You're not the National Librarian of History, you're of today and tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we are a legal deposit library. So we are one of the 6 legal deposit libraries in the UK and Ireland. And that means that we collect published material. We're entitled to get a copy of every book published. And that's huge. So when the advocates started collecting, of course, back in the 1700s, when legal deposit came in, that there were very few books published. But thanks to Gutenberg and revolutions in publishing and across the number of books published increases year on year. And now, of course, there are digital books as well. So we collect digitally and we collect in printed format. And actually, I was telling you there about the Iona Psalter and how delicate and precious that is and how old it is. But some of our most fragile collections, what we call fragile collections, are those digital collections that were curated or collected back in around 2010. And some of them use technologies such as Flash, which isn't available anymore. So those ebooks and digital content at that time is inaccessible already. So we have a digital preservation issue around collecting some of them. And of course, we have other things like CD-ROMs and computer games and, so much content that is way beyond just books. You're absolutely right. And it's really important that we collect it because I don't know if any of you've heard about Richard Ovenden, the Bodleian's librarian, who's written a book called Burning the Books, and he talks about the value and importance of retaining these memory for the future, for truth telling, and to know what's happened in the past. So, you know, the cultural memory, it's critically important that we have those documents. You're right to mention the Lion in Mourning. We've got documents that were you know, all about the Jacobite struggle, and even a little pack of playing cards that somebody was writing, you know, on as they were observing at Culloden. It's incredible, and we have those within the collection as well. But we need to make sure that we're collecting today. To in the future, people will still be able to look back and understand what happened.
Well, I think it all goes to, it's like the Spirit of the Highlands project that's going on up in Inverness, telling the stories of the past to help us understand today. And I was really fascinated to know more about an exhibit you've got going on about pen names, because we all think about how we instant message everybody and send an email and do all these different things. But all this came, they were doing it in a different way back. So tell me what pen names is all about.
Okay, so pen names, we're really excited to be launching this new summer exhibition on Thursday. Actually, we're having a launch event. So it's really taking some of our unique literary archives. So, you know, we have the John Murray archive and many others from the John Murray Publishing House. And within that, we have an incredible array of not just published works and first editions, but notes, letters, manuscripts from writers throughout the time. So from the Murray archive, alongside other things we have in our collection, our curators, Kirsty McHugh and Ian Scott, have put together this exhibition, which will focus on writers who've chosen to write in a different name, a name other than their own, throughout time, and the reasons for that. So it's really fascinating. So of course there are famous writers like George Eliot who've done that, but also Sylvia Plath. We have a first edition of the Bell Jar, which she wrote in a pseudonym. And there's also lesser known writers that people might not be as aware of throughout history who've also taken this approach. And the exhibition looks at some of the reasons. So sometimes, obviously, it's so that people don't know, they might want to be more accepted. And a number of female writers, a lot of women writers did write as in a name that could be non-gender specific, presumably to get published actually and to have a wider readership. But then Robert Louis Stevenson also wrote under a pseudonym for Treasure Island, which was really interesting. And that was probably his publisher who suggested that change. So the whole exhibition traces the range of different people who've written under pen names that we have within our collection and gives a little glimpse of those. So it's really exciting.
That's very different. And something you wouldn't think about, but you're always you always have new and exciting new additions. And not surprisingly is your National Depository. But I was very honored to be a part of helping with the Honnesfeld Library acquisition, which is going to be a wonderful new addition of works to the National Library. So how's that going? And where do we stand at the moment?
Well, first of all, a huge thanks to American patrons for all the support. We really couldn't have done it without you. It was absolutely fabulous. The whole project, as you know, I had just taken up post at the time that it was really getting started. So it was a brilliant thing to be involved with right at the beginning and to see all that work. And it was a collaborative effort as well. So we were working with libraries across the UK to save the library, the Honnesfield Library, and bring it into public hands, you know, to bring the bards home. So those bards are now ours, but are still at Sotheby's in London, and we're collecting them in August. So obviously there weren't just the big hitters, you know, the the first editions of Burns, etc., and Walter Scott, but we also had a number of other books that were part of that collection, and libraries all across the country had to go and collect the items from Sotheby's. So it's been a huge operation, in fact. So in August, we'll be taking hours up to Scotland and driving them up here. And the first thing that we're going to do is have an exhibition of Rob Roy in Glasgow at Kelvin Hall. So we're really excited about that and looking forward to people actually being able to see the manuscript. And it's really important to us that we digitize these manuscripts as well, and that we continue to work collaboratively with the other partners in the project to make sure that people have access to all to the collections and across the world. But we know how valuable it is for people to come and see the actual handwriting of Burns, to see, you know, the first commonplace book and see what he'd written in it and all of that. So we're really, really excited to bring those home and have them here in Scotland.
Well, so for those who are not so up to date with the Honours Belt, it began when it was noticed that a huge collection of books was coming up for auction at Sotheby's in New York. And it was stopped just the day before by a collaborative effort between 8 museums and collections in the UK who came together so quickly and undertook to raise the money and complete it within 6 months. I mean, it was a huge undertaking, and it also had to work out who was going to take what, from Jane Austen across to Sir Walter Scott, to Burns, etc. And all of us got behind amplifying it and being a part of it. And I mean, it was such an exciting time to work with the National Trust for Scotland, with yourselves, with Abbotsford House in particular, and to see what we could do to help save for Scotland the bards and these leading authors. And I'm so excited, but it also shows how there can be these secret collections. I mean, that was a really outstanding thing, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It was amazing. It was almost like a fairy tale in itself, because some people knew about the collection, and it was there were sort of whispers of it, and some people had seen it and worked with it before. But the idea of coming together to save it from going into private hands and being broken up and distributed across the world without us ever having access was really quite unique and really special. And again, huge thanks to everyone in America, all the American patrons who helped us with that. Just it really is, it does show you what can be done when we all work together and work collaboratively. And the speed was something else as well, wasn't it? The fact everyone just got together and went for it. It was really amazing. And we're absolutely thrilled. And we can't wait to actually see the collections in situ. And of course, they will be part of our Treasures Gallery in time as well. And in the future, we'll have lots of opportunity to display the material.
Well, you're coming up to a centenary as well, a centennial of 100 years. So yes. All this is sort of building towards that. And the library has changed from what it started out to be to where it is now. So how are you looking to celebrate this milestone in a couple of years?
Yeah, it was really exciting. Yeah, so in 2025, the National Library of Scotland will be 100 years old. And what we really love to do is have a sort of a celebration across the whole of Scotland and with all our partners. So we want to get people together and think about what we could do, because of course we're the National Library of Scotland, not the National Library of Edinburgh. So we have a remit to sort of reach out and include everyone. And it'll be the culmination of our strategy, our Reaching People Strategy 2 in 2025, which is all about reaching people across Scotland. Some of you might be aware of, I think New York Public Library, for example, have done a big project recently to try and pull collections out and make the library more of an open space. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to really make people feel that when they come to Edinburgh, they can walk in, that they can enjoy the collections. It belongs to them. They get a slice of seeing, you know, what's on display, that we have a young audience as well. And we've got space for young people, for children's events, for school events, so that the library is vibrant and alive, but equally that we have top class research rooms and facilities as well. So, you know, we've got a really, we've got big ambitions for that space, and we'd love to make an announcement around the time of our birthday. And we've been talking to the Scottish Government about that, about bringing the building to life. Scotland, is, you know, is a UNESCO City of Literature, and we have the most incredible collections and incredible staff team and energy in the National Library. And we just love to show it off with a beautiful building in Edinburgh too.
Well, now with the Treasures Gallery, this is really the 5-year plan that's playing out. You know, you've got the Treasures Gallery is opened. It's opening up this wonderful new window onto all that you have. Yes. And we're learning so much more. It's lovely having you in touch with us through video, able to tell us about what's going on. I had no idea, well, I'd never thought of it, about how the recordings and everything are a part of what you do, of the albums, of all of these books that are coming to you digitally and in person. And I think this is so exciting. And also I think it is so much a family event, because we want young people to understand the history, but they need something they can understand immediately too.
Exactly. It's so important that we're relevant to young people and we're vibrant and people understand the value of keeping these memories and holding on to that sort of cultural heritage into the future.
Well, nobody quite understood. I've always done spreadsheets from an early age. My grandfather was a mathematician and things. And I was a librarian at school, and now a library at the American Scottish Foundation, and I love how we're logging everything. So I have a great appreciation in a mini sense of what you're doing. I cannot even comprehend the scope of your work. It's fabulous, and I thank you. I'm going to be over soon in Scotland, and I'm so looking forward to trying to catch up with you and with Lucy.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And to see you. But
that would be lovely, Camilla. I can't wait to see you. And you'll have to give us a advance warning of your favorite items and things that you'd like to see in the collection. If you'd like to see the music stuff, we've got great folk archives and Scottish folk music, etc., which are really wonderful. So yeah, let me know in advance and we'll look out some specially handpicked treasures for you.
Well, I'm really, really excited, and there's so much for us to talk about. So thank you for joining us today, and to us speaking again very soon about all that's going on.
Wonderful. Thanks for speaking. Thanks for your time, Camilla. Lovely to speak to you.
I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Claire McKenzie and Scott Gilmour, the duo that is Noisemaker. And as we approach the start of the Fringe, this year they haven't got a production that will be happening. That's a rare thing for you both. But the Fringe has been a wonderful springboard for several of your productions. Could you let us know a little bit about how that all works?
Yeah, of course. Hello, Camilla. First of all, it's dead nice to see you. Yeah, so Claire and I we've worked together now as a writing partnership for this is our 10th year working together. You can see it in the eyes if you look really closely. We started as a duo writing work in Glasgow and taking it to the festival, much like kind of small scale like productions to try them out and to really get a sense of how we kind of write together. The first piece we ever did there was based on like a true story that we'd read in a newspaper article. It was a show called Forest Boy that started in Scotland, in Edinburgh in Claire, was it 2013? Was that right?
2013. It was that long ago. Yeah.
2013. And that was a collaboration between us and the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland at the time. So it was a show for their master's programme at the university. They did a version of it, and that show actually left after we did it at the festival. It went to London for a little bit. We won some awards for it, and that's actually
how we met.
How we met.
Exactly. It is. We found ourselves in New York with it, but that is all thanks to the Fringe platform that we had that year.
Yeah.
So we do owe a lot to that festival, and that was the start of I think about 4 or 5 shows we have taken to the Fringe first, and it's a great place to try something out. And usually they're like about an hour slots at the Fringe, so they're quite a small version of the show, but it's perfect when you've got a first draft of a show to try out in front of an audience.
But it is expensive. It's not like the people you go to see and talk to about your production say, oh, we'll put it on and here's a check. You have to raise the funds and really get behind promoting and pushing it. And I don't know if everybody understands how much all of you put into getting these productions on, because not all of them are funded by the entity hosting you.
No, actually, very, very rarely will you get any financial support from a venue. A venue will partner with you in terms of like marketing and selling tickets and stuff. But when it comes to actually fronting money for the production, it's pretty much always on you as an artist, or if you have a producer to help you raise some money. And even like really, really bare bones version of a production, you're well into like the 10, 20, 30 grand to do a run at the festival. So it's not like it's not an easy like undertaking, but I think if sometimes it's not always like a financial payoff you're going for, it is undeniably though, it is the biggest arts festival in the world, and it connects so many different artistic communities and different international communities from all over the world coming to Edinburgh for that 1 month, and that kind of exposure, I suppose, to not just like different people in your industry, but just audiences in general. There isn't really another place in the world to do that, so I guess it's the payoff is being allowed to like show your work to that on that scale.
I also think it's a great experience though, you know, for artists who've written a show, and then you have to kind of figure out how you're going to sort of produce it, maybe find some money, maybe sell the thing. I think you get to learn what your show is and who it's for very quickly. So although it's a bit of a trial by fire and you're kind of like running to keep up, I wouldn't change that experience for artists at all.
But you are just so when you're in Edinburgh and you see all these people busking and all these little pop-up shows happening, support them, because you really do, the artists really are needing your support, because that's a big thing about this, is the artists are really putting so much energy into it. But can we start off by taking a listen to something from Forest Boy? It won so much acclaim and was such a great springboard for you. So which track would you like us to hear first?
Let's have a listen to Master of the Land, which was one of the first songs in the show.
Set the dials turning, tonight the road you choose.
when you came to New York that first time with Forest Boy, you beat out 900 other entrants to win a space at the New York Music Festival. And it was wonderful. It was such a springboard into everything that then happened over here. Mm-hmm. So when you look at who's going to be performing this year at the Fringe, you're going to be looking at it with a different pair of eyes. You're going to be going as an audience member. What are you really excited by that you've heard is coming up?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, again, it's like one of the reasons the festival is so good is because the range of stuff you get to see just can go from huge, big scale productions that are so kind of well supported and are coming from quite big theatres, and then there's other things that are just like little rogue, unexpected little gems that you know are going to go on and do something fabulous. I remember a few years ago actually this is not this festival, but the first one, it was a few years ago, we saw the musical Six, so that's now on Broadway and it's in West End, and it was a Fringe show. It began as a Fringe show, and it was a student Fringe version of that show that came to the festival, and it's now gone on to be one of the biggest musicals in the world at the moment. I think for me, like this year, the two shows I think I'm most excited about seeing. There's actually a show from the National Theatre of Scotland that is getting made, which I suppose is like quite a big scale thing. It's a show called Burn that is featuring Alan Cumming as Robert Burns. It's mostly a physical dance piece using a lot of his poetry and songs and stuff, and it's a look at the bard in a sort of cooler, more modern way. So I'm quite excited to see like how something that's so kind of rooted in its Scottishness kind of comes across in that way. But I think like musical wise, I think for me that there's a show called Lizard Boy, which actually began in the States. So it's doing the reverse of what we did with Forest Boy. Lots of feral boys apparently at the festival. Lizard Boy is a piece that started in Seattle. That it's like quite a comic book, graphic novel type musical. It has moved over to Manchester to do like a really short run before doing the festival this year. And it's like some American writing. It's really great, but it's coming to the festival this year, and I'll be interested to see how international audiences like receive it as like an American musical at like the Scottish festival.
Yeah.
And you, Claire?
Yeah, I mean, Scott copied me with Burn. I'm really excited to see Alan Cumming in that piece. I'm throwing another musical that I'm excited to see. It's called Fantastically Great Women Who Changed the World, and it's by a writer called Chris Bush, and it's already been on a UK tour, and it's coming to the Fringe, which I think is a really exciting way of doing it, where it's already had a tour, and then it's going to play at the Fringe for the month, and it's going to be great to see a really large scale new musical in Edinburgh. So really excited about that one too.
Well, why don't we also now hear a piece from Atlantic, because that was a huge piece for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was actually the show that it began at the festival. It was one of ours that started at the Fringe Festival in 2017. It was a piece that was about the story of St Kilda, which is one of Scotland's like most remote islands. And since the Fringe Festival, we had quite a successful run there, and the show went on to become a podcast series that's just been out over. Was it 2020, Claire, that it was out?
Yeah.
So it's now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So yeah, we'd love to share a piece from that.
So what piece would you like to share with us today, Claire?
Let's share I Run With You, which is one of the first songs in the series, and it's where our two young lead characters are kind of exploring the island of St Kilda, which is where it's set, which is a very, very remote island out in the Atlantic.
I've ran this route before, trodden down this grass, know where burns to jump, know which walks to pass, coast to coast I've seen all there is to know, water's all that stopped me running further from home.
which route he'll choose. Up along the cliffs, thorn is why he'll lose. Herta is a riddle, but it's ours to roam. Water's all that keeps us running further from home. But my feet won't give in, and my breath won't give out.
Try me like that.
My legs won't give up, and my heart won't give in to that. While I run with you, I run with you, I run with you, I run with you.
Come on, Cleaner, we're gonna win.
You've had so many different productions that I've been fortunate to be witnessing and watching your journey. And I'm really looking forward to hearing and knowing the latest on Kaylee, which is coming shortly. But where are you with everything right now? I know that you're doing quite a bit over here in the States. And so very shortly, I hope we're going to be hearing and knowing more of that. Can you fill us in? And also you have some soundtracks that are now available on Spotify, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, we do. We've actually, there's a couple of our shows that we're now releasing the score and soundtrack to, which Claire will be the one to tell you exactly how to access that, because this is the face of the person who doesn't do that side of things.
Well, yeah, actually, but when this podcast is released, our first album that we've released will be out on Spotify, and it's called Atlantic, A Scottish Story, and it's original music from the podcast. So there is a podcast series you can listen to if you want the full story, but we've also got the full soundtrack there now, and you should find us. You can also search for us just by typing Noisemaker, and you'll see our two faces looking back at you probably somewhere. So that one's out soon. We've also got another soundtrack coming out shortly to a brand new show that we have been working on called Scots, which is basically an irreverent look at Scottish history told in an hour. So we did our first production of it last month at Orderson in Glasgow, which is a lovely venue, and it was a hoot, and hopefully we're going to bring it to the States as well. So we're going to release that soundtrack, and it's all about Scottish history, but hopefully taking out the boring bits.
All right, so that's great. So at the moment, over this summer, are you writing?
Yeah, we're in the process of we have, as you kind of mentioned earlier on, we have a piece called Kaylee that is in development in the States. So we're really fortunate to be working with Barbara Whitman and Beth Grove, who are two New York-based producers, on developing this show, which is a Kaylee. The audiences get to come along to a big live Kaylee, learn some of the dances, some of Scottish kind of culture and tradition, whilst also following a story that kind of emerges through the evening. So that we're sort of putting some final touches to the draft and the songs, and then we kind of in the autumn are in New York to do our first sort of workshop of that piece. So our first kind of go at getting it on its feet, which will be nice and exciting. We're really delighted to be partnering again with Goodspeed Musicals in Connecticut, who developed an old show of ours called Hi, My Name is Ben, which is another piece we're still working on in the States. Goodspeed have just commissioned us to start a new show for them based on a novella called The Snow Goose, which is a really beautiful story set during Dunkirk. So really kind of like rich, beautiful, moving little story that we are taking the book and adapting it for the stage as a new musical. So we're just starting the writing for that, which will kind of begin around autumn. But yeah, we're still continuing to keep one foot in Scotland and one foot in the States. It's been really lovely to see the growth of interest in work that comes out of Scotland, and also to kind of watch some of our shows go from being those little like fringe productions that we started years ago and growing into something bigger that more audiences can see, which is really lovely. It's a lovely part of the work.
Well, we're going to see you back here in September. You're joining us for one of our events back here, the Wallace.
Can't wait.
And I hope that we get a chance to do another preview as we did with My Name is Ben. That was absolutely fantastic. And so proud that we've been able to be a part of your journey and keep in touch and know what's going on. And and also hear from you today with your picks for the festival. So as we close this segment, what would you like us to hear?
I think possibly, just because it's linked into everything, a piece from Kaylee would probably be right. But Claire, I'll let you can decide which one we go with.
I think let's play something like this, which is a really fun, upbeat dance.
Duncan the Stout was a man who loved to dance. He'd summon all his clan whene'er he found a chance. First he'd lead them in a toast and command they get in pairs. The dance we dance tonight will be danced for 100 years. So Duncan he taught Patrick, the caller after him, the steps to his dance so it could be taught again. When Duncan died in battle, Patrick called the clan. Find yourselves a partner and let's celebrate our man. But as the caller takes a swig and drains his mug of ale, the steps he swore he'd learned to lead seem lacking in detail. Holy Moses, my mind's gone blank. Was it 2 steps forward, then another back? It seems unfair of me to call it his. All I know is it was something, something, something like this. So every time the time arrives for the dance to be passed on, legend says that every caller somehow hears it wrong. From Duncan to Patrick to Arabella in her stoop, to the chief who thought he'd write it down but dropped it in his soup, to the caller in Rosyth who failed to inform the caller in Kincaid as he told it in a storm. But still it does survive as callers muddle through, and now it's found its way to here for us to pass to you. See, traditions, whatever we choose to pass on, and if it can't move with us, you'll soon find it's gone. And yes, Duncan the Stout may see our steps as strange, but his dance is still here, cause it's been able to change. So when it's time to pass it on, don't worry on what to say. What needs forgotten will be gone, and the rest will somehow stay. Holy Moses, my mind's gone blank. Was it 2 steps forward, then another back? It seems unfair of us to call it his. All I know is it was something, something, something like this.
Fantastic. So see you very soon and keep cool. It's horribly warm here, but I hear it's even hotter back there in Scotland.
Yes.
It's the first time for everything, right?
I know. So speak soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Camilla. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us this week. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. It was wonderful to hear from Anthony Alderson and hear of all that is planned with the Pleasance, from Amina to see the wonderful treasure gallery now come to life and allowing us to see so many additional pieces of the library and understand much more what it's about. And finally, the chance to really chat with and understand behind the scenes from Noisemaker, the challenges, but also the wonderful opportunity that performing at the Fringe can give a new production or new artists. To learn more about what the American Scottish Foundation does, please go to our website, americanscottishfoundation.org, and join us again the first and the third Monday of the month for another Scots in Us.